Welcome to Center Pages. Welcome and welcome back to my channel, baby. Get my glasses real quick. I wanted to do, of course, a little reading update. Get this video kind of out quickly because I'm going to be busy today. And I'm not going to have a whole lot of time I want to get to the library. With that being said, and other things, I don't have a whole lot of time to be in the house recording this video, but I wanted to get this out because I got to take this book back to the library today. But I really wanted to talk about Black Boy by Richard Wright. Now, you're going to have to bear with me because I did not write out any notes. I didn't write a script or anything because I really haven't had time to write the script out for this video because I was writing for another video that I want to do and typing, and it takes so much time. It's very time consuming, but I love it. I love it. So I got some coffee. I walked down 7-Eleven and got me some coffee this morning in my pretty sparkle cup. Got me some coffee. And a bottle of water that I already drank half of. And we're going to get to talking about this book. This perfume, the perfume, not only do I want to talk about Black Boy by Richard Wright, but also I want to read my review for Daisy Jones and the Six. And I know that those two books really don't have anything to do with one another, but like I said, I had a whole concept in my mind for how I wanted to do the Daisy Jones and the Six video, the Black Boy video, and I just ran out of time. I don't have time for any of it because the books is due back to the library. So what I want to start off with, as usual, is the perfume, because the reason why I'm doing Halston, now I know I did Halston back maybe last year when I had first got the perfume because I'm so excited about it. I love it. But the reason why I wanted to do it again for this video is because in the book Daisy Jones and the Six by Jenkins Reid, the book is set in the 70s. It's about a band who's rose to fame in the 70s, but they disbanded at the height of their fame because of all of the behind the scenes drama and whatnot. Honey, it was giving Stevie Nicks and Fleetwood Mac and Sly and the Family Stone and all that. It was really good and I really liked it. But in the story, Daisy mentions that as she got famous, like I said, in the 70s, she was this smells so good. This smells like Studio 54, honey, in a bottle. But anyway, Daisy in the 70s, as she is getting famous, she wears the designer Halston. Halston was a designer in the 70s, and he designed beautiful clothes for women. And when she mentioned that, I was just so excited because I love Halston and I love his brand and I love how, he presented himself back then and all of that. It was fun to hear, something like Halston in this book. So with that being said, I kind of wanted to do a little more. I watched the documentary on Halston. I kind of wanted to talk a little bit more, expand a little bit more on the Halston perfume than I did before because it's so closely related to the Daisy Jones and the Six book. I thought that was so cute that she started wearing Halston design clothes as she got famous and she was too cute in it. I was like, go ahead, girl, wear that. So, Halston was released in 1975. It's this word I can't pronounce. Chypre. I feel like I'm pronouncing it wrong. Chypre. Floral fragrance for women. The nose behind it is Bernard Chant. Let's see. Let me see. What I liked too about the documentary that I watched about Halston is that it showed so much of what his empire was like, and how clean and modern his offices and his brand was. He himself, I'll try to put some pictures in if I can, he had a very neat, clean aesthetic to himself and to his offices and his brand, and it was very beautiful. However, he definitely ran it with an iron fist. The documentary said that he was not like the nicest person to his employees and stuff. Honey, they better get it together, because he was running an empire. You know what I'm saying? Everybody being nice when you're trying to get to this coin and dress beautiful women and make perfume and whatnot. Y'all better get it together. So he, this bottle, right? This bottle was an issue, because the design of the bottle was actually after the design of one of his girlfriends, one of his homegirls. He had a friend who was a model and a designer, right? And her name was, I have my notes, Elsa Peretti. And the teardrop shape was shaped like, she had this iconic necklace that she had designed. And it was that teardrop shaped bottle. He modeled his bottle after the necklace. The same shape of the necklace is the shape of the bottle. But at the time, the curved neck of the bottle posed a problem for Max Factor. That was who he went under. It posed a problem because the curve made it difficult to put the perfume into. It made it difficult to fill up with the liquid. So they lost a lot of money behind the bottle design and in trying to, appease Halston, who was not backing down on how he wanted this bottle to look. And Max Factor was irritated with the whole thing because it was a mess. Let me see. Yes, so I thought this was funny too. They said that the bottle was shaped like a glob, and it was hard to fill it from the top. Not shaped like a glob. But I like it. So there's a little bit of history behind that. However, the fragrance, it was a hit, and it became a bestseller. The women loved it. Let me see, the stores, it says that the stores couldn't keep it in stock, and I totally understand why, because I love it. So like I said, it definitely smells like Studio 54, honey. It has, top notes are green leaves, mint, melon, peach, and bergamot. Middle notes are marigold, carnation, cedar, orris root, ylang ylang, rose and jasmine. Base notes are oak moss, vetiver, amber, incense, sandalwood, patchouli, and musk. Those are my favorite types of base notes. And I love the 70s and Halston and everything associated with that era, except for the drugs. I just want to be a disco diva and dance in the disco and wear sparkles with big fluffy Farrah Fawcett flips and yeah, just be in that part of the 70s, not the other part of the 70s that was doing too much. That Studio 54 was a mess. I've watched so many documentaries about that place, but that whole time period is just where I just want to be. If I was born in the past, I honestly think that my period would have been the 70s, where I could just... So, and after that, about Daisy Jones and the Six. So like I said, it's written by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and the blurb says, everyone knows Daisy Jones and the Six, but nobody knows the reason behind their split at the absolute height of their popularity until now. Daisy is a girl coming of age in LA in the late 60s, sneaking into clubs on the Sunset Strip, sleeping with rock stars, and dreaming of singing at the Whiskey A Go-Go. The sex and drugs are thrilling, but it's the rock and roll she loves the most. By the time she's 20, her voice is getting noticed, and she has the kind of heedless beauty that makes people do crazy things. Also getting noticed is the Six, a band led by the brooding Billy Doon. On the eve of their first tour, his girlfriend Camilla finds out she's pregnant, and with the pressure of impending fatherhood and fame, Billy goes a little wild on the road. Daisy and Billy cross paths when a producer realizes that the key to supercharged success is to put the two together. What happens next will become the stuff of legend. The making of that legend is chronicled in this riveting and unforgettable novel, written as an oral history of one of the biggest bands of the 70s. Taylor Jenkins Reid is a talented writer who takes her work to a new level with Daisy Jones and the Six, brilliantly captured a place in time in an utterly distinctive voice. I love this book. I gave it 5 stars. I thought it was so cute. I thought it was so captivating in its time capsule type of way because it just really does take you back to like that time period. It was so cute. I tried to watch a little bit of the show that's on Amazon, but it wasn't given the same type of feel that the book was. The book really was given a very vintage, set in the 70s. Like I said, with this mentions of Halston and the hair and all of that. It was just giving very much so 70s, and I was here for all of it. I loved it. So my review says, before I read this, because in my written review, I only talk about, I didn't get around to, it's so long, and I never did get around to talking specifically about Daisy. Let me address her before I forget, because Daisy was a piece of work, in my opinion. Yeah, she was talented and all, but that talent is trumped when your work ethic is not matching with your talent and is not meeting up with this beautiful talent. When your work ethic is out the window and all you want to do is be the worst with drugs and alcohol, that's annoying. And so that made her, Daisy, kind of insufferable, if you ask me. With her constantly being late, and not caring at all about how her behavior as a band member was affecting everyone else. She was openly flirting with Billy, and Camilla was there. Like, girl. Yeah. I didn't see what in the world all the hubbub around Miss Daisy was. I mean, I guess because too, I couldn't really hear her singing voice in the book. You get more of that in the show on Amazon Prime, the Daisy Jones and the Six show on Amazon Prime. So I really was kind of lost as to why they couldn't get rid of Daisy and find some other cute girl that can sing, that wants to be in the band. Well, I mean, okay, I can't say that. Daisy definitely wanted to be there, but her priorities was just all messed up with the drinking and the partying. So let me see. Her mentality was like, she was going to do what she wanted to do and wear what she wanted to wear. She wasn't going to let nobody tell her nothing. She would wear her little t-shirts and whatnot with her nipples out. It's like, it is not my responsibility to care, to not be sexy for these men or to care about them being horny. She was like, what did she say? Where is it? I can't find nothing in this book. I can't find it. But she was just like, I can't find it. But she said, it's not my responsibility to care about, men being horny about what I wear. It's their responsibility to not be an asshole. Which I kind of agree with to a degree, but at the same time, she was also really a bit much. So she's had, some thinking about some things. I also really like how feminist and forward-thinking Daisy really is. Daisy and Karen were both really great examples of And honestly, I could say all of them. Daisy, Karen, and Camilla. Camilla was Billy's girlfriend, Billy's wife during it all. And Karen was another band member. She played what instrument did she play? I think the piano and stuff, keyboard. She was a very instrumental, she was very feminist in their dealings with one another. They weren't catty with one another. They were very supportive of one another. I like how Camilla was supportive of Karen when she needed help with going to the doctors with a certain issue. I even like how supportive Camilla was with Daisy. You know, like I said, in my opinion, she was a little too nice. Because like I said, Daisy was openly flirting with her husband up on the stage. She was a whole lot. But Camilla was really kind and sweet. She just really wanted to see Daisy clean and not, doing drugs constantly. So that's all I really have to say about Daisy. But my review goes, I really don't even know where to start with this book. I don't want to give too much of a summary as to not give the whole story away. I mean, honestly, there isn't very much of a story to give away. Meaning there isn't a traditional antagonist. Maybe drugs or hard living are the antagonists, I said. But there is not a twist, and there aren't twists and turns like you may think. It's a story of a band and how they come together and how they all wrote. It's a story of a band and how they came together and all wrote and how they all did in the band together. So because of that, I'm not going to give you my usual summary of events and all. Just go ahead and read and listen to the book. I listened and I was very happy that I did. I really enjoyed it so much more than I think I would have if I had chosen to read the book, especially with all the constant interchanging of different band members talking during the interview process. It's set up as the members of this band being sat down and interviewed like 30 or 40 years later after the band has disbanded and moved on with their lives. They sit down to tell their experiences of what happened while they were together and what it was like for them being in Daisy Jones in the 60s and the 70s during the height of the rise of rock and roll. Because I honestly think that the height of rock and roll was in the 80s. I mean, not that I can really comment and know because I wasn't there. I wasn't around in the 70s for to see what the music was like in the rock and roll. And I was just born in 85. So what I see from documentaries and from looking back at history through the media that I do have, it just seems like the 80s was such a rock and roll time period. And really like digital music and hip hop was just emerging. Anyway, I says the height of rock and roll because I honestly think that the height of rock and roll was in the 80s. The 70s belonged to disco. But anyway, Daisy Jones and the Six are a rock band. So with that being said, I'm not going to talk about, when they got signed, Daisy Jones joining, the first record deal signing, the releasing of different albums, etc. It's in the book, and it's kind of hard to recall chronologically all that was happening, since they themselves are just recalling from the past and saying what they were doing musically at the time. But what I am here to talk about is the drama, the juiciness of it all. It was given Stevie Nicks and Fleetwood Mac. That's what I said at the beginning, because it really was. I said, even though I'm not old enough to have listened to Fleetwood Mac, and I didn't hear a lot of their music growing up, but I was still very much so a part of the MTV/VH1 generation. MTV and VH1 was still popping with good shows when I was coming up in the 90s. We had stuff like Behind the Music and MTV Diary. Behind the Music was on VH1, I think. And MTV Diaries, etc. So I would watch those shows. And I remember over the years seeing Stevie Nicks talk about how much drama and foolishness went on in Fleetwood Mac amongst themselves and behind the scenes that none of the fans knew about. Despite them being able to write and make music together beautifully, they just couldn't get along. Tragic. I think that they were a bit of an inspiration behind this book, which was fun and cute. I was definitely here for the band drama. Also, nothing like a good band drama. I said, yes, nothing like some good band drama, and knowing the situations that they were in that inspired the writing of some of their biggest hits. I always like that. I like every time I listen to a memoir or read a memoir by a like an artist, a famous music artist. I love hearing the stories behind the inspiration of a song of that time period, what it was that they were really dealing with, and why they wrote whatever song that it is they wrote. Mariah Carey's memoir was really good with that. It was fun hearing exactly the situations as to why the music that she was putting out. Because at the time when we're listening to it, we have no idea what these people are going through. I'm thinking, oh, you just making songs, you just making music or whatever. The whole time, most of the time, that's not the case. They're really experiencing things and going through stuff. So that makes it extra fun hearing, the behind the scenes inspiration behind their music. I said, it was kind of like a fun celebrity memoir, but not, because it's a made-up story. I said a few highlights of my favorite parts was Camilla and Billy's marriage. Chef's kiss. Camilla, she was chef's kiss. I loved her. I love how they showed how it's possible to be a celebrity or a part of a rock band and still, and still be married. Still be a stand-up person and stay sober and faithful. There are some people like Billy who really just wants to play an instrument in a band, sing, make music, and hear fans screaming their names. You can have all of that and still be in love and faithful to your partner. I love how they emphasize trusting one another as the cornerstone of making their marriage last. Camilla had to trust Billy on the road without her, around groupies, drugs, and alcohol. That was especially hard for him because he had already gone to rehab early on in his career for drug and alcohol addiction. So he already had an addiction problem, but he got a hold of things. He got a hold of the problem early for his family, his girls, Camilla and their 3 daughters. They had their oldest daughter named Julia and a set of female twins after her. So he and his family had his family already early on in his life and career, so he was able to hold on to them and allow them to be his beacon of light, his motivation for sobriety. I like sobriety rep, and I liked this sobriety rep in this book with the type of rock and roll celebrity story. I said, as a rock and roll story book, this is the perfect place to put sobriety rep. It's the perfect way to write a person being directly in the midst of temptation and fighting against it. I like it when books and movies write or show people succeeding at sobriety and being strong through it. It means so much to be trying to not partake in a substance that you want and still not do it. I used to be so hard on myself and other people when it came down to celebrating sobriety or releasing any sort of addiction. I used to say, oh, why are people celebrating not doing something that you should have never started doing in the first place? And I was being so smug, honestly. And I had to check that mentality and be gentle and a lot more understanding of humans and the things that we go through in life, that we try to self-medicate. It doesn't matter the reason why or how we found ourselves picking up an unhealthy addiction. It happens. Sometimes we don't always know or aren't fully aware of just how addictive doing a thing or certain substance can be or how it's going to affect us until we're already too deep into it, and now we have to fight to get out of it. And winning that fight every day should be celebrated. Every day. Because addicts go through it every day, fighting an urge every day. And Billy, definitely, he still went through in that band with not drinking or doing drugs while he was in the band, but he did it. Because everyone around him was always partying or hooked on something or had something. But he fought. He would make his music and leave. He would physically leave and go home to his wife and his kids every night. Even if the band had been in the studio all night and all he had was 2 hours before he had to come right back to the studio with them, he was going to go home. His family was his reason for sobriety and faithfulness. Billy had said something that I kind of had to think about a little bit. So this was the statement that he made, because I kind of feel a little bit odd about it. I'll explain it. Here's the statement. He says, when you really love someone, sometimes the things that they need may hurt you, and some people are worth hurting for. I have hurt Camilla. God knows I have. But loving someone isn't perfection and good times, laughing and making love. Love is forgiveness and patience and faith. And every once in a while, it's a gut punch. That's why it's a dangerous thing loving the wrong person or having someone who doesn't deserve it. You have to be with someone that deserves your faith, and you have to be deserving of someone's faith. It's sacred. I have no tolerance for people who waste other people's faith in them. Not at all. Camilla and I promised to put our marriage first, to put our family first, and we promised to trust each other and how best to do that. Do you know what you do with that level of trust? When someone says, I trust you so much, I can tolerate you having secrets. You cherish it. You remind yourself of how lucky you are to have been given that trust every day. And when you have moments where you think, I want to do something to break that trust, whether it be loving a woman you shouldn't be loving or drinking a beer you shouldn't, you get up on your 2 feet and you take your kids to Disney World with your mother. See, his thing was to escape, was to leave. He was going to get his family. He was going to leave out the situation. He was going to either get his family and go on a trip somewhere, or leave out the, what was it? The tour bus. He wasn't going to go on certain tour buses. He was going to leave out certain tour buses. The bar, he was going to leave out the bar. Parties, he was going to leave from the party. I like that, because that's what it takes sometimes to really stay sober and to stay clean from doing a substance or whatever that a person doesn't want to do. You have to completely remove yourself from the situation. That makes sense. So I like that. And the only thing that I didn't like, though, was when he said that whole, do you know what you do with the level of trust? When someone says, I trust you so much, I can tolerate you having secrets. No, I can't tolerate that. No, I don't know nothing about trust and secrets. If you got secrets, then what am I trusting? I can't trust secrets. I don't know nothing about that. I mean, I get what he's saying. I understand. I mentally understand it, but I don't agree or like it. I was talking to my girlfriend about it, one of my home girls, and she was like, what the fuck was that? Like, what you mean? Trusting that you can have secrets. No, I don't. I don't trust that. Me neither. I don't, honey. So, that's what he said. The whole little statement was cute, but that, I guess, you know, that's where he is. I ain't that good yet. So anyway, I said, so it says, he would physically get up and remove himself from the situation he was in with his band. He wouldn't go to the bar or hang out in Daisy's tour bus. He was lucky in that way to already have his reasons to stay sober and faithful. Camilla was his world, and I loved it. He loved her so much. Even though he had chemistry with Daisy, he didn't sleep with her. Him and Camilla both seemed to realize that in life and in marriage, you aren't only always going to be attracted to just your mate, but it's what you do with that attraction and how you act on it and carry it. Him and Daisy had a couple of heated moments with one another while in the studio or writing songs together, but at the end of the day, maybe I'll see you next lifetime. Maybe we'll be butterflies. I guess I'll see you next lifetime. You know, he had to hit her with the Erykah Badu. Maybe next lifetime, Daisy. But the end of the book was so good. How it did end up. And what Camilla said, I'm not going to give it away. It was so cute. You got to read Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I loved it. 5 stars. The next book that I wanted to talk about, just really quickly, really briefly, because I wasn't able to write out a script and really do deep dive into this the way that I wanted to, but I read the hell out of it. Definitely read it, definitely enjoyed it, definitely consumed it, and was happy that I read it with my own eyeballs, my own eye muscles moving across the pages, my brain, me being exhausted afterwards. I was happy. Some kinds of books need to be consumed for me, to me. Certain books should be consumed. I want to, because I can't say it should, because I'm not going to shit on people, and I'm not going to shit on myself. Me personally, I will say, I want to consume certain kinds of literature and certain books in certain ways. And this book, I wanted to consume by physically reading it, not listening to it, because it was just that deserving and that beautiful. I'm not going to be too long into this. I just did not want to take it back to the library without it being in my YouTube archive as having read it. I loved it. So, and again, like I said, please bear with me. I might be all over the place. I hope that I'm not, but I just really kind of want to highlight some of the events of his life with some of the things that he said about it, the way that he writes in describing his feelings and growing up as a black boy in the South, and how he exists as coming of age at that time period where it's hard to comfortably come into your own. And this is a coming of age story, but it is a hard coming of age story. But it was good. So one of the first things that I remember about the opening of this book is he was born in, I think, like 1908, Richard Wright. He has his father left quite early in his life, and his mother was very sickly. She had a stroke early in his life that debilitated her and paralyzed her pretty much. So she was very incapacitated and couldn't work for a lot of the rest of his childhood, from like an early age on up, like 5 or 7 or so. She had the stroke. So they ended up having to move in with their grandparents. I don't remember if they was living with the grandparents before the stroke or after the stroke, but at some point in that early part of his life, his mother had a stroke. They were also living with their grandparents. He made a mistake and I don't know if he made a mistake and did it. I think he was purposely playing. He was playing with fire. I don't know that he knew exactly, what was going to happen. I don't think he intended to burn the house down. I think he intended to be playing with fire. But I don't think he knew the seriousness and how fast fire grows and gets out of control. So he set the daggone curtains on fire, and it ended up burning the whole house down. Oh no. I know he was terrified. But his mother literally beat him until he was unconscious. What in the world? Like, I was like, oh my goodness. And it struck me because, and especially back then, I can't even say, that this type of abuse doesn't still go on, because it absolutely still happens, especially in the black community. But I just couldn't understand why in the world they have to always be so mean. So many people are so mean. Why was it just no thought in the world to beat your child until they lost consciousness? That is extreme and a whole lot. So that's the opening. That is the environment with which he is set in. He never has anyone on his side. No matter what the boys say, he's always wrong and being told how bad he is, and and how smart he's getting. I remember one instance in this book, he had asked his uncle, I think for the time, no, his uncle had asked him what time it was. And he said, let's just say he said, 12:15, something like that. And his uncle just got so mad and out of this world crazy about the tone that he had set, and he was ready to beat him. And Richard was like, but you're not gonna hit me though. His aunt was the same way, ready to beat him over every little thing. What was it? His aunt was like a Seventh-day Adventist. She was real extreme. His aunt and his grandmother, they were both like Seventh-day Adventists, and he was just not a religious, godly type kid. He didn't believe in it. That's fine. He never did. He never really took to it. He had his own thoughts and feelings about religion and God and all that kind of stuff. It's understandable. But just the level of violence that these people thought was okay to inflict upon one another, and children, I don't understand. His aunt was trying to beat him, and after a while, he got tired of that crap. And he started to defend himself with knives and blades. I get it, because you're not going to keep beating me for no reason. For something, he said one time, he said the reason why he defended himself was because he said, prior to this, I could kind of wrap my mind around why you was beating me. You know, I could kind of say, oh, well, yeah, I looked at the situation, and I kind of see where I kind of deserved that. He said, but in this, I had literally done nothing wrong. And I couldn't see at all where I deserved the beating. And so I wasn't going to let him do it. He grabbed his knives up and he was like, if you touch me, I'm going to cut you. Because it's so dehumanizing and belittling to constantly be being hit and pop, period. But especially being hit and pop for a reason when you don't feel as though you have a reason to be. Absolutely. That's definitely a reason to get tired of something and to want to defend yourself. If somebody keeps slapping you upside your head and wanting to beat you with a switch every time you say something, you got the right one, baby. So let me see. So, he was talking about his father and how his father was so distant and mean, and how one day his father had said the kitten was making noise and Papa said to kill it. I explained. His father had said it in a way. He just wanted. Yeah, he said, scat, scat, he shouted. The scrawny kitten lingered, brushing itself against our legs and meowing plaintively. Kill the damn thing, my father exploded. Do anything, but get it away from here. So Richard, because his father was being so mean and ornery, Richard was like, okay, fine. He literally went out and killed that kitten. His point was, he said, he killed the kitten, but he was getting ready to get in trouble again. His mother said, you little fool, your father's going to beat you for this. But he said, but he told me to kill it, I said. You shut your mouth. She grabbed my hand and dragged me to my father's bedside and told him what I had done. That he had literally killed the kitten. So he says, I had my first triumph over my father. I had made him believe that I had taken his words literally. He could not punish me now without risking his authority. I was happy because I had at last found a way to throw my criticism of him into his face. I had made him feel that if he whipped me for killing the kitten, I would never give serious weight to his words again. I had made him know that I felt he was cruel, and I had done it without his punishing me. I mean, goodness gracious. I understand what he was, trying to do, but that was a whole lot. But that was the level of extremity that was always surrounding his life. I used my pencil to mark my favorite quotes from him in this library book. So as I go through it now, I'm going to have to make sure that I erase my little marks that I had did and take out all of my annotations. Oh. It was so good. I love this book. Let me see. It's chapter 2. He said, after I had outlived, and another thing that I wanted to talk about Richard's childhood was his constant permanent state of hunger that he was always in. He was always hungry. He never really had enough to eat and to feel full and to grow physically to his full potential, because he was constantly he was always eating, like I think in the book it said something like lard and something else. It wasn't good enough. And that's why this book is also, there's the other version of this book is called American Hunger, because it really is about trying to survive being hungry and having nothing in the Jim Crow South. It's terrible. He said, after I had outlived the shocks of childhood, after the habit of reflection had been born in me, I used to mull over the strange absence of real kindness in Negroes. Yeah, see, meanness. How unstable was our tenderness, how lacking in genuine passion we were, how void of great hope, how timid our joy, how bare our traditions, how hollow our memories, how lacking we were in those intangible sentiments that bind man to man, and how shallow was even our despair. After I had learned other ways of life, I used to brood upon the unconscious irony of those who felt that Negroes led so passional in existence. Passional. And yeah, I like that word. In existence. I saw that what had been taken for our emotional strength was our negative confusions, our flights, our fears, our frenzy under pressure. That's so true. It really is. And he said it right there, because they were, people period are mean. And the Negroes are mean. Everybody is mean, but goodness, I just don't understand why in the world you got to be so mean to children. And he wrote about the meanness. He learned about reading through a tenant, a young girl that his grandmother used to rent a room to, and she had read him. She whispered a story to him, Bluebird and His 7 Wives. When his grandmother found out that the girl had told him this story, she got real mad and said, "You telling him stories of the devil," and some weird conspiratorial, what's the word when people are suspicious of everything? What is that word that I'm looking for? When you don't let a black cat cross your path, or don't walk underneath of a ladder. What is that word called when people are always concerned about them types of things? I forget, the word is escaping me, but she was always like that. Real, I can't think of that word. See, this is why I need to write out my daggone scripts before I get on this camera. That's irritating me. But whatever that is, that's how she was, constantly about stuff. And it was irritating. So after the girl, so she was like, "You telling him stories." So the girl told him the story or whatever. She put the girl out, but the damage had already been done, honey. She had already sparked the flame in little baby Richard to continue to read and to be obsessed with books and reading. He said, but I like the story. She said, you're going to burn in hell. With such a furious conviction that for a moment I believed her. He said, I hungered for the sharp, frightening, breathtaking, almost painful excitement that the story had given me. And I vowed that as soon as I was old enough, I would buy all the novels there were and read them to feed that thirst for violence that was in me, for intrigue, for plotting, for secrecy, for bloody murders. So profoundly responsive a chord had the tale struck in my life that the threats of my mother and grandmother had no effect whatsoever. They read my insistence as mere obstinacy, as foolishness, something that would quickly pass, and they had no notion how desperately serious the tale had made me. They could not have known that Ella's whispered story of deception and murder had been the first experience of my life that had elicited from me a total emotional response. I had tasted what to me was life, and I would have more of it. Somehow, some way, I realized that they could not understand what I was feeling, and I kept quiet. But when no one was looking, I would slip into Ella's room and steal a book and take it back of the barn and read it and try to read it. Usually I could not decipher enough words to make the story have meaning. I burned to learn to read novels, and I tortured my mother into telling me the meaning of every strange word I saw, not because the word itself had any value, but because it was the gateway to a forbidden and enchanting land. This book was so good, full of his love for reading and his drive for reading. Wanting to read was his motivation in life for moving to the north, for a whole lot of everything. He would go through, he would do schemes and plans. He had this plan where he would go to the white library. He would get his friend to sign a paper saying that he could have certain books. He had this white friend who would let him use his library card, and he would pretend that the books that he was picking up was for his white friend when really they were for him, and that his white friend was the reason why he was in the white library. Whole time they was for him. I love it. I love it. I love reading being the motivation to scheme and books and whatnot. It's so much fun. Let me see, how long have I been talking? Okay, maybe I've got a couple more minutes where I can find a little bit more. Superstitions. That's what she was. I couldn't think of the daggone word. Superstitious. Stupid stitches is what I call it. About every daggone thing. Yeah. Stupid, unnatural fears about everything. So then he talks about also his experiences with white folks and being in the South at this time period. And he says, a dread of white people. Wait a minute. A dread of white people now came to live permanently in my feelings and imagination. As the war drew to a close, racial conflict flared over the entire South. And though I did not witness any of it, I could not have been more thoroughly affected by it if I had participated directly in every clash. The war itself had been unreal to me, but I had grown able to respond emotionally to every hint, whisper, word, inflection, news, gossip, and rumor regarding conflicts between the races. Nothing challenged the totality of my personality so much as this pressure of hate and threat that stemmed from the invisible whites. I would stand for hours on the doorsteps of neighbors' houses listening to their talk, learning how a white woman had slapped a black woman, how a white man had killed a black man. It filled me with awe, wonder, and fear, and I asked ceaseless questions. That's where I'm actually going to wrap this up at. I didn't have time to go through everything, but I mean, you get it. You get how beautiful it is. Look at all these sticky notes and whatnot. It was 5 out of 5 stars. I'm going to get this book and I'm going to add it to my personal library. I'm going to reread it again. And definitely make a longer video on Black Boy by Richard Wright, and Black Boy Joy, and the joy of reading and loving to read and wanting to educate yourself. Self-education and self-learning is so much fun. I'm excited because this is also reminding me of Black History Month coming up. I'm really, really excited about that. I've already got my reading schedule materials and TBR for Black History Month already laid out. One of the books that I'm going to be reading, first I'm reading Madness. It's an audio book. I forget who it's by, but it is so good. I started it today. I think I've listened to like the first hour or more of it today. It's Madness. It's about this the first African American or Negro mental health facility here in Maryland. It was out in what part of Maryland? What part of Maryland was that? It's an insane asylum in, I can't think of the name of it right now. I'm gonna have to go back because I remember when when they said it, I was like, oh yeah, I used to go. Crownsville. That's what it is. Out in Crownsville, Maryland was where the insane asylum is. And it was giving a really good history lesson all about like the history of Maryland and Baltimore being very much with their mental health facility and very much involved in slavery and how racism and slavery and the Chesapeake Bay being right there was so strongly linked to how not strongly linked to, but how it was all tied to Maryland and how all of that relates to and kind of blended into where we are in Maryland, how that happened with mental health, with that mental health facility and mental health representation and real help with it. It was good. It's good so far. I'm gonna read that book, Madness. I want to do Reformatory by Tananarive Due. Also, there was another one. I said Madness, Reformatory. There was one more that I can't remember. Hold on. And then this one, 5 Smooth Stones. Oh, and Black AF History. I started that too. That's good. Where the guy retells the history from not as much of a white perspective. But it's really good. I'm listening to that too. So Madness, Black AF History are the 2 audios that I will be listening to this month. Then I'm going to read this. And Malcolm X. So this one, I started it already just a little bit. But it is, I think, a interracial love story set back in, like, the Jim Crow. It's a pretty thick book. It's a thickie, so I'm going to have to carry this with me all month long. I really want to read this. Also, I want to start The Witching Hour. That is a library book that I'm not ready to take back to the library yet. But I have to hurry up and finish that and get through it because I want to read that. I want to take that back to the library. That's going to probably be the only non-Black book that I read this month. And I also have to read Malcolm X. I've been wanting to read this book during Black History Month for a couple of years now. So I'm going to do the 2 audios, Black AF History, Reformatory, the 3 audios, Black AF History, Madness, and the Reformatory. And then I have a choice of these 2 books as my physical books. I'm going to try to get through both of them, but if I can only, I'm going to be working on Malcolm X the most diligently first. All right. I think that's about it. I also have Roots in there somewhere, but honey, who is trying to read Roots? I don't even know what I was thinking when I got that book. I saw it at the store and I was like, oh, Roots. Like the movie wasn't hard enough to watch and I'm about to sit here and try to read it. I think I might just keep it right where it's at and have it for another year and give this one a try. I don't know. We'll see. But that's it. So there's that. I'm going to make another video probably later on today or maybe tomorrow for the book She Started It. It's another British thriller, honey. And I am ready to talk about all the tea in that book. I have to get it together. All the details. She Started It by Sean Gilbert. Loved it. It was so good. So that's coming soon. I will see you next time.